Welcome everyone to the Tuesday evening Minions of the Zoo. We have some background noise to welcome this evening Minions Prospero,
Hello.
Blind Press,
Hi, everybody. This time it's not my kids. I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding.
JediGhostBear, aka David.
No, those would be my minions that are causing the background noise on the minions.
Yeah, we have sub minion noise, subspace noise in the minion channel, and the
Four
Harry
of the
channel.
five of them anyway.
And
Good
the
evening.
Harry channel. It's nice to see everybody here this evening. Yeah, Prospero, what is going on with you? Anything important in your world?
Well, other than my damned headphone jack being a jackass,
What?
it's not much. Actually, very much. It was a fun weekend. We went out to the house, and they've got lots done. And I went on the county website today and found out that I can look for scheduled inspections, and they'll pop up. And I saw that we had two, one for our mechanical and the other for the plumbing rough ends.
Yay.
Which is great because the mechanical will be usually is for both the HVAC and the gas lines, or the plumbing will cover both of them, but it's the same inspector who tends to do the same stuff.
So you're going to have gas in the home?
Yeah, it's a gas neighborhood.
Okay.
Which is
When's
wonderful.
the expected completion it's supposed to be?
Well, the first week in June was the tentative closing date we were given.
Okay.
And they were doing electrical rough-in. They'd worked on it Saturday, obviously, and they hadn't completed it, and that was to be completed this week.
Okay.
And I hope they get the rest of the friggin' windows in because it's raining tonight. There were still a few windows they didn't have in, which was a bit of a pain in the ass. But the plumbing rough-in, the two spigots have been put in, and the tubs are in place.
Oh, good.
And the furnace is in, and all the duct work is done, and
Awesome.
toilet outlets and that kind of stuff. So yeah, it was
It's almost a house.
yeah, but yeah, and you can envision it a little bit better because when you're just looking at studs.
Yeah.
Against a wall, you don't exactly see the spaces all that clearly, and I could kind of visualize very easily. Okay, sink, cooktop, wall ovens, that.
Yeah, you're starting to see where things go now.
Yeah, and the outline of the island become more.
That's exciting.
More clear. Yeah, so that was that was big fun. That was a lot of song and dance. The great thing is when they framed our house, we went in some houses that were being framed last fall, and they didn't get the stairs in right away. Well, they got our stairs in from jump. So we don't have to walk around the side of the house to go in the lower level, which is kind of nice. But it was really kind of cool to see the furnace in place and the toilet traps in the sink,
That's awesome.
Yeah, it really was. So that's the excitement in my life. That and about a gazillion loads of laundry today.
Oh,
How's the excitement in Midlothian, Texas, Mr. Skep?
It's been
Dorothy.
yeah. Yeah, we got very well acquainted with a tornado last night, and it came roaring down our big thoroughfare, actually roughly paralleling it about a mile and a half. The closest point of approach to our house is about a mile and a half away. We could hear it, and with the keening of the normal weather sirens, which you can hear for miles and miles and miles, there was also the sound of the tornado, and that was a very weird, discordant, aharmonious effect. It was just like hell unleashed with zero visibility, so much precipitation, so much blowing hail and rain that you effectively can't see 15 feet in front of your hand. It just it absolutely was nature just flexing just a little bit, just the least little muscular twitch, showing us how insignificant we were. Yeah, that was unusual. But enough about being blind. Press, what's going on with you?
Oh, I'm just taking it day by day. I've gotten Logan got sick again, so he's been home with a cold. So I've been being the hug, cuddle, nose rag, vipering. Yeah.
How old is Logan now? What's he?
He's 4. He'll be 5.
I thought he was 5
this month.
Okay, so he's about to turn 5. All right.
Yeah,
so.
he shares the birthday with your sober birthday.
Yes, that's right. That's right. April 27th.
Or yeah, he's the day after your sober birthday.
Right. I remember that now.
Yeah.
Hey, guess what?
What?
I do have a jack.
That's what I thought.
Yeah, I just didn't have enough room for plugs. That was
Yeah.
cool. Yeah, so I do have a jack, and now I'm all jacked up. But this one actually works. It's kind of nice. I mean, my mic isn't working, but
so yeah, I've been being a nurse to the sick one, and still trying to get. I'm still planning on doing a coffee stream tomorrow because he's I can like wrap him up in a blanket and he'll play Minecraft or something.
Do the best you can. I would love to do the Wednesdays with Skep. It's a little bit of a tradition, but I also understand the realities of kids. I know you will not make a child miserable just so you can have a stupid stream. So, I know you too well. You're a good mom. So anyway, all that stuff. David, what have you been up to, man?
Oh, just work, and
turning out the quality content on Twitter, though. I really appreciate that. I really look forward to your content. There's just a very few people. You, Prospero, Ranting Monkey. There are not very many people who I just roll into their feed and just plunder my way through. But I really enjoy the content that you're putting out there. And,
I appreciate
Prospero
that.
does too. That's great stuff. How about you, Harry?
How about me? What?
How's the headache?
It's doing better.
I'm sorry you're suffering with that, man.
No, it's my own damn fault. I should have prioritized getting new glasses.
Oh,
and I made it worse because I bought this after I had an Apple Cinema display, which I bought a long time ago, like one of the 30-inch jobbers.
Yeah.
Now I bought this in roughly the year 2000.
Okay.
So after 22 years of meritorious service, I think I feel okay about replacing it.
Are you gonna get the studio display?
Actually, what I got was an Asus ProArt 32-inch 4K.
Did you get your cost out of it?
Well, it was about $2,500 when I bought it. So it's sort of like how I buy expensive shoes, but I don't replace them all the time.
Yeah.
Right. And you still put them on a 5-year depreciation schedule.
Timex or Rolex, my friend. That's the way to go. You want to go Timex or Rolex. For a lot of things, that's actually true.
Yeah.
I mean, you do the analysis. If you buy a watch, if you buy pretty much anything in between those two, money-wise, it's not the right thing to do.
Yeah,
that's right.
Which isn't to say that if you go get like one of those Nixon watches that looks like it was hacked off part of a redwood tree or out of 2001: A Space Odyssey, they have some great-looking watches. But just understand that in terms of your money, you better enjoy it because you're not making money or saving money.
Yeah.
Right. Now, a lot of people wear watches for reasons other than making or saving or being efficient with money.
Well, I used to love wearing watches.
Yes, did I?
And I like a good watch as much as the next guy, probably a bit more. But I found that they didn't work very well with motorcycle gloves. So you get the gloves with the gauntlets, and they did not want to go over my my good watch.
No.
And it's like, okay, so clearly I have to pick between protecting my wrists or wearing a watch. I think I'm going to go with wrists.
Some of the watches you can get are really beautiful. They're just really works of art, and you have tremendous amount of functionality.
My dad used to have this really awesome pocket watch, and I was obsessed with his pocket watch because it was like it was one of the ones that it was on a chain and everything.
Yep.
And it was this big flat disc.
It's called the fob.
Yep. And I remember it even ticked, and it was my favorite thing to do. It would be like, Dad, does your watch need to be wound? Can I wind it? Because it was so cool. I loved it. It was just awesome.
Yeah.
I am.
Well, go ahead, Prospero. No, please.
No, I finally got the mic hooked up after I pulled everything and threw it around on the desk because I was pissed.
I was just sitting here thinking to myself, why is Prospero so quiet tonight?
Well, because I don't like using.
her.
Yeah, well, I didn't like using the laptop mic for input because it picks up too much noise.
It does.
Yeah.
And it can provide a creepy echo. So
it's a bad because you've got the Air, right? MacBook Air.
MacBook Pro.
MacBook Pro. Yeah, but the MacBook mics are very tinny.
Yeah, they are. I
hated having to use.
I've heard myself on them versus, well, I mean, when I started streaming with Minions, I was doing it on my iPad.
Yeah.
Which absolutely sucked. So when I got the mic, because Hammer was like, you need to get a mic.
Yeah. Well, of course.
And so I got a mic on his recommendation. So grind your teeth away, Harry, and aim it at Hammer. But it was so much fun because the day I hooked it up, he's like, let me help you set it up and see what it sounds like. And I was like, all right, can you hear me? And he was like, Jesus Christ, there's bass. And I did notice, remarkable amount of difference. But
when I started streaming, I had a very nice microphone, a German microphone. It cost me $8 retail, and it seemed to work fine until I got the snowball.
Yes,
and then I heard the difference. And quality mics really do make a difference.
Yep.
Yeah, and I mean, Monkey used a snowball for ages. He switched since, but when I first encountered him, he was using the snowball.
Yep. I like the Yeti because I can do more things with it. It's a little more convenient to use, but it was just such a step up in quality in terms of the sound that it conveyed.
Yeah, it's worked well for me. And I will eventually replace these headphones, but I might wait till we move.
What kind of microphone do you have, Prospero?
A Blue Yeti.
Oh, okay. That's what I have. That's what I have.
I bought a snowball.
Yeah, which is what I did.
And I never used
then you upgraded.
And I immediately upgraded because I bought the snowball, and then Hammer was like, okay, we need to hook a mic up and you need to get a Blue Yeti. And I was like, shit, did I get the wrong kind? And I've kept it hope against hope that this one doesn't like die on me. Because with cats, you never know. And a couple times I've had to jump up really quickly and my feet have tangled in the cord.
Yeah.
And ka-thunk. The mic hits the floor.
I wouldn't mind I have a snowball, and I wouldn't mind a Yeti, but my snowball is working, so
yes.
I don't absolutely need to.
I know. I mean, mine was kind of embarrassing, on my part, but I didn't know what to do. It was kind of angst ridden, this whole business of streaming, and then getting a microphone. Like, I actually thought anybody was listening to me.
Well, no, people do listen to you, and you know, I think the social media experiment right now is just one of the most important things that's going on. It's going to social media is going to be the actual killer app of the internet. It turns out it wasn't email, it wasn't Twitter, but it is the many-to-many relationships that are suddenly possible, and the immediacy of knowledge, of understanding, and how easy it is to gain it. These are just that's a huge leap forward. It's going to lead to some very unpredictable, potentially fraught with opportunity and risk times ahead for us as a result.
And we've already seen an enormous amount of, when YouTube started, I mean, I knew people were watching YouTube videos to find out how to fix code and things like that, and how to change the battery in their car. There were just all kinds of reasons to watch YouTube, but then commentary channels started using the platform more, and then YouTube had to respond by being political about it.
Yeah.
And it's like they did not realize that one to many, many to many could have the impact it did until it started to have an impact. And then they started to back scrabble and act like complete
idiots.
Germans in the 1930s. So,
those idiots.
And
Don't be beastly to the Germans.
And that Austrian guy with a funny mustache. Susan,
Charlie Chaplin was an Austrian.
They had really nice pocket watches, though, to keep the trains running on time.
Yeah, they did.
And the guy in the funny hat from Italy.
They should have just let him into the art school.
Yeah, no kidding.
Would have been fine.
His landscapes aren't so bad.
Yeah. They really, it's like,
we can work with this.
Go back in time. Here's a scholarship kid. Here's an art school. Have a nice life.
Yeah, real potential. Stay here.
Yeah, in Nepal, preferably.
Yeah.
The landscapes are great at that altitude. You won't have a bit of a problem.
Here. Go up here. We won't. No, you don't need any winter gear. No, oxygen. No, there's plenty of that up there. It's fine.
The problem is the headline in a few years would read, Alfred Jodl successfully prosecutes war against allies.
Yeah.
America sues for peace.
Yeah, something else would have broken.
Yep.
Yeah, it was the bound to happen.
Yeah, if Germany had not been managed by a madman, they would have enlarged Germany and have gotten another Chamberlain type encounter where they really would say, okay, we really will stop this time. And they would really stop for potentially a very long period of time.
There was also like the Schlieffen Plan. There was the treaty and the Treaty of Versailles really was.
It was shit, and it's one of the reasons we got World War II. I mean,
and Hitler definitely co-opted that. He was like,
oh well, it was in the zeitgeist of the German people. It was angering German industrialists. It had been a political thorn in their side from the moment.
There's a reason that Hitler signed France's surrender to Germany in World War II in that same railroad car.
Yeah. It was up yours.
Oh yeah.
And Woodrow Wilson was no longer around to up his.
Mm-hmm.
Oh God.
Yeah. Thanks for endorsing that pile of shit, Mister. I think I understand diplomacy.
He has crept into my top 5 worst.
Good.
He's Buchanan level bad.
Well, and
He's Pearson.
and has personal characteristics that are more disgusting than almost any other president.
Oh, no.
I mean,
I don't know much about Wilson, actually.
well, just
Oh,
virulent
good God.
racist, complete shithead. Thought he was
eugenicist.
Oh, okay.
yeah, eugenicist, and
And
Fabian
let's start with getting
socialist,
rid of.
basically.
Start by getting rid of the black people guy.
Mm.
yeah, guy that brought
Yeah,
you
he's
Jim
that
Crow
guy.
to the federal government. You know,
Gotcha.
and his wife was worse. Edith, his second wife, Edith.
She was boop shooby crazy.
Yeah, she was,
evil.
and she was running the goddamn country after his
I
stroke.
know she was president.
Talk about
Yeah,
it.
She
President
was
Edith.
kind of like another. She was the predecessor of like Eleanor and.
Jill.
I'd say she
Jill
predecessor.
Biden.
Chill. Think Jill. Yeah,
Okay,
yeah, because they're similar.
gotcha.
Boop shooby.
Wilson was only a stroke victim, so he had a considerably better grasp of reality than Joe Biden.
Well, tragically, yes.
Only on the one side, though.
His
that would-
arguments were all one-sided.
And that was the left. And that was the left. Yeah. Wilson.
Yeah,
was-
Wilson famously endorsed kind of the second rising of the KKK by putting showing the Birth of a Nation?
Birth of a Nation. Yeah,
Yes,
D.W. Griffith.
yeah, D.W. Griffiths. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they showed it at the White House. One of the first movies, if not the first movie shown at the White House.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, it's just great. Just great. Now I disagree with going back and removing his name from everything that was ever on.
Oh, of course.
He was
No, it's an all. He
Can't
was
do that.
president.
he was president of the United States, but I remember Glenn Beck saying ages ago that when he was in the National Cathedral, he said, I only had one like secret request and I knew they wouldn't grant it, which was to crack open Wilson's tomb so I could make sure the son of a bitch was really dead.
Mm.
Mm.
And I thought, yeah, I can understand that. I mean,
If I was in charge in
Glenn-
Washington, his
Glenn
crypt would
Beck is
become a
saying
urinal.
shit like that.
yeah. Well, he was the progressive. He was the kind of the benchmark of where
Yeah, but
they
he
were
was a
going to go.
progressive- He was a progressive in the
Fabian sense.
hardcore, Fabian socialism
Yeah.
sense, and very much a planned economy, planned society guy. He had
Sure.
he had plans for getting rid of the black people and getting rid of the lesser races. I mean, he was almost a master race guy. He really truly was.
Yeah.
He was and he was of that classic democratic, Southern
Mm-hmm.
sensibility that's just the way the races are.
It sickens
supposed
me
to
that
be.
he's from Virginia. He's the one
Oh,
I
no,
want.
no.
He's the one I won't claim.
Tell me about it.
I mean, I'd give him to New Jersey. He was president of Princeton, for Christ's sake. They can have him.
You can fuck off to New Jersey then.
This is gonna sound stupid, but because I never actually was able to discover this, but Theodore and Franklin, are those Roosevelts related, or are they just?
Yes, they are. They
Yes.
are. One belongs to the Brooklyn Roosevelts. The other one belongs to the Oyster Bay branch.
Okay.
Don't they?
So, yeah,
have
they're
two
cousins.
Don't they have two relations? Aren't they cousins in two ways?
Eleanor was cousins in two ways. Yeah.
Or maybe that's what I'm thinking of.
Yeah. Eleanor was actually distantly related to Franklin.
That's what it is. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's what it is. Yeah.
Yeah. As well as Teddy and Franklin being, so it was a little circle jerk. But it's like Roosevelt, the good one or the bad one.
Mm.
Mhm.
Right.
Well, the Brooklyn Roosevelts are the old money, and the Oyster Bay Roosevelts are the new money. That's what you have to know about that. Anyway, more than you want to know about the Roosevelts.
Yeah, I already know too much about them. And that isn't much, but that's more than I want to know. Yeah, I just no fan of Franklin Roosevelt.
No.
But he ended the Depression and he solved
Fuck
World
him.
War
But
II.
no, he didn't.
The
He did.
New Deal.
He protracted the Depression.
Well, how did he do that? What are you saying?
Oh, his stupid economic policies. The government will drive everything. I mean, oh my God.
Oh, and then our fucking R.V. Bennett looked at what Roosevelt was doing and went, I know. We'll just call it the New Deal for Canada.
Yeah. Yeah. And so you got to come in second for how long your depression lasted.
And to the point where the freaking newspapers were starting to be called like Bennett blankets.
Yeah.
Because for homeless people, because there were that many homeless people, they were just literally using newspapers as like.
Well, see, we had all the alphabets to put the homeless to work.
Right.
See, we had the We Poke Along Works Project Administration, and we had the Civilian Conservation Corps, which actually was a good idea. I mean, there was a lot that was done by the Civilian Conservation Corps that people benefited from, as opposed to a whole lot of busy work, but vastly expanding.
A lot of the Army Corps of Engineers projects were under CCC.
Yeah, which was great. I mean, you ended up with a whole lot of
dams.
What became vacation destinations, though, for people. You know, campgrounds and stuff in California.
Because where's the dam are lakes.
Yeah.
I think I remember hearing about. I used to read a book a lot when I was a kid called "Let the Circle Be Unbroken" by Mildred D. Taylor. It was a book written in the 30s during the Great Depression about a Black family in Mississippi. That was what it was. And they talked about the CCC, and they talked about another organization that I can't remember. It was another 3-letter.
NEA,
WPA, that's what it was.
WPA, I think was one of them.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was the Works Project Administration, which my parents referred to as the We Poke Alongs.
I like that.
Yeah, well, my dad was like, oh, yay, Roosevelt, and then he grew up. He had the youthful, almost Marxist enthusiasm.
I think we all did.
I didn't, because I was basically told that it was stupid from the time that I could understand speech. So
my dad tried to do that with me, but my mom raised me most of the time. So like,
yeah,
I kind of like I'm not gonna lie. I voted New Democrat the first time I voted, and then I grew up.
learned a thing or two about economics and went, wait a minute, this shit doesn't work. No, I would have. That was a bit of hyperbole on my part, but my family had no truck with communism.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
It was universally despised, and explained why.
Mm-hmm.
It was crap. As was a lot of Roosevelt explained as why it was crap. The glories of reality on the other side of youth. And
we were taught that the only proper thing to do with the communist was to kill it.
Pretty much.
I mean, we really were brought up in the kill a commie for mommy environment where communists were the enemy. That's what Dad did. Was he protected the shores from communisms in the wind tunnels of Wright-Patterson Air Force Base.
Well, but Cree's dad was career Army, and so he never even gave communism a look other than the scoffing type.
Yeah.
So
we had a lot of Army people on the ground in mainland China when they were run off the mainland, and just 5 minutes ahead of the gunfire that would have ended them. I mean, we almost got into a shooting war with China over that. And in the Army, there's just such antipathy against any communist state or communist movement.
Well,
it's even worse than the Navy.
They'd send dummy shipment trucks out from Verona, and they'd line them with X-ray, and everyone came back exposed because the Albanians were busy little beavers in northern Italy, checking on what the Americans were doing for the Chinese.
Yeah.
Not to mention what, you couldn't tell who was working for whom. They were just all working for some commie or another.
Mm-hmm.
And that and Italian communists were always a thing. Like, like Italian and, they're 800.
We'll get it right. No, you never get it right.
They're 800 different political parties in one town,
And the communists always have 3 seats.
Yeah.
In the legislature. That's all they ever win.
Well, it's the amazing thing about the 2 singular Mediterranean states, Greece and Italy, is their love affair with anarchism and communism.
Yeah.
It's kind of like, Jesus Christ, just stick to food and wine and olives. You guys are good at that shit. Just don't do politics, really.
Food, olives, and mob.
Yeah, well, that's Sicily. That's really more Sicilian. But, and that is a different world. But honest to God, really, stick to making moussaka and lasagna and ossobuco. And I mean, Greek wine is, I don't know, their whites are kind of piney. Retsina is rough.
Yeah, I was going to say the Retsina is
wine.
Yeah, but their food's awesome.
Or amaretto.
And
but never ouzo. Ouzo is disgusting.
Well, you don't like licorice.
No, I do not.
Yeah,
might as well just drink absinthe at that point.
Yeah, well, it makes the heart grow fondle.
Yeah, if I'm going to drink something that's that herbaceous and licoricey, I'm just going to go straight to absinthe.
I like Sambuca, but I'm kind of alone in that. I always loved the drink Sambuca con Mosca. I mean, of all the things to call a drink, you drop a coffee bean in Sambuca and you call it Sambuca with a fly.
Okay.
I mean, that's what that means.
Yeah.
And it's whatever, like a dead fly. I mean, I can remember my mother leaning over and dipping her finger in the top of her.
Can't make me.
Yeah, but my mother would dip the finger in the top of her drink, and she had a little no-see-um drowned in there. Well, we didn't drink much.
Mm-hmm.
Because you can't have a drink outside without little gnats being drawn to it.
Yeah,
Man.
The things I do to keep fruit flies out of my sourdough starter, it's an ongoing battle. Because they just, fly around it and go, I smell something I like. Is that acetic acid? Can I have some? No.
Yeah.
No,
you can't.
That's my acetic acid. Stay away.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, Farina moths.
My COOHs.
Farina moths love to suicide wine. I had an outbreak of farina moths, which I got rid of by putting any and everything that they could consider food in the refrigerator or freezer. And I just starved them out. Because the little traps really weren't doing anything. And I was like, okay, fine. Because, they'd even get in beans.
Oh, damn.
And I was like, God damn it.
You remember fly strips?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Whatever happened to those? They seemed like a really good idea.
Mm-hmm. They gross people out, I think.
They still work.
Well, but if you go, it used to be like a common thing that you'd hang this thing and then flies would get stuck to it and it would get rid of all this stuff. And I think we just sort of got to the mentality where, no, I'd rather just spray my entire kitchen with poison
right?
than just hang this thing, like we're white trash in the corner. Because, only white trash have flies in their house. And this is practically an admission that that we're white trash. We can't have this. So I'm just going to spray poison everywhere indiscriminately and then wonder why we all have cancer.
Yeah.
Right. Because that makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, because they had flypaper. I guess it came in like a little roll, almost like film. They had them, you could hang them and it would just pull it out and then it'd just be this sticky thing. And God forbid you touch it because then you've got flies and glue stuck to you, which is not good.
Yeah, you'd see them hanging in restaurant kitchens.
Yeah.
All the time with about 100 flies attached. You know?
I do like a good bug zapper though. When you get to the commercial kitchens where you've got the big bug zapper over the door, it's just like bzz, 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 bzz.
Hey, we had a bug zapper at the cottage, and damn, if that thing wasn't a great way for me to find the door to the cottage.
Yep.
Because
I considered that, but
flies would just the flies and the moths and everything would. Oh, look! There's the front door to the cottage.
You ought to see what they do I remember being in my bedroom and hanging. We had one of those cage bug zappers hanging in the back, and apparently a moth the size of a bat flew into this thing. My whole room illuminated.
Oh my god!
I mean, it was just like the you know, it was
like the Highlander quickening, like
the lights dimmed all over town. You know, I mean, it was like holy shit.
So did you see? So should I call you JediGhostBear? What should I call you?
Yeah, sure, or any combination thereof, or David, or Dave, or whatever.
David. Okay. I'm just going to call you Dave if that's okay then. So Dave, did you watch the movies or the TV series and did you watch any of the spin-offs like that terrible thing with Bill Clinton's ex short-term girlfriend Elizabeth Grayson? Did you watch any of that stuff?
My mom was obsessed with that show. So yeah, I watched all of them.
Yeah, all of that kind of sexy syndicated cable stuff from Studio Canal. Man, those were good times. They had a bunch of shows like that came sort of out of that. They were like joint ventures between Canadians and French people. And it was a lot of this was stuff that would come out in the 90s. I can't remember what else came out of Studio Canal, but that was, man, that was a good show with Adrian Paul. I mean, that was like a bunch of seasons of, that was a lot of fun. A bunch of seasons of good TV. I really miss the TV from the 90s. I think the internet has done us a lot of favors, but syndicated TV just couldn't hold up to internet content. And so what we're left with is sort of the internet stuff and then the major network streaming service stuff. And all of that kind of like B-tier, semi-independent syndicated stuff has just been obliterated. And it's kind of a shame because that's where a lot of the more interesting stuff was. It was sort of like, well, if we can make something that's good enough to get renewed, we're happy. It wasn't always swinging for the fences because they kind of knew that they were never going to be the big hit. So it gave them freedom to actually try to make something good instead of sweating over every little detail to try to appeal to more people.
Right. Yeah, that was a fun show. I just comparing it to what's popular now. I mean, the Highlander's infinitely better universe than like the Vampire Diaries or any of that stuff.
Yeah. Yeah, dreamy teenage vampires. No. Sorry, I didn't mean to take your show away from that, but I've never talked to Dave really, and so I really enjoyed stuff like that.
Yeah,
well, like even The Crow when it was syndicated, that was a great movie, but it was actually a pretty damn good TV series, and was that Mark Dacascos? I can't remember. Who went on to be the chairman of the American Iron Chef thing. I lose track of all these people. I'll have to go back and look at it. Because, I mean, a lot of that stuff was just pure crap. You know, like Acapulco Heat.
I forgot about that one.
Yeah, there was a lot of bad TV, too, like Nightman. Where Earl Holliman got turned into a ghost and sucked into the interweb. Because they didn't even call it the internet then, or the World Wide Web. They call it the interweb.
The Outer Limits, which is...
you've reached the peak of TV when Earl Holliman becomes a cyber ghost.
The Outer Limits, which was the Twilight Zone ripoff.
Yeah, I'm surprised they haven't tried to remake that, to be honest.
Well, they did remake it. There was the old one in black and white, and then there was the newer Outer Limits, which was decent.
It was okay.
It was okay.
But that's what they're talking. That's what BP's talking.
That's
about.
what I'm talking about.
You're talking about a remake of the remake.
No,
I was
talking.
thinking of the.
I'm talking about the one that you're talking about. The
Okay.
The one that was in the 90s.
Yeah, the 90s had some great TV. It really was a kind of a golden age with Bill Clinton.
The last hurrah. It was the last hurrah.
Well, it was because you could just do stuff at that kind of scale that you couldn't really do now. Like I said, everything's either a lot smaller or a lot bigger.
Right.
And everything that's bigger has pretensions of being the best thing. If you're not the new Friends or the new Seinfeld or the new this or the new that, they just tweak it and then it always ends up sucking.
Yeah, the Marvel Universe is a case in point.
Yeah.
Or
good
it's
is
gotta
never
be
good enough.
Really super dark and gritty, like over the top gritty. That I just can't stomach. Like I couldn't get into The Walking Dead for that reason, because it was just too dark and too nihilistic.
The problem with The Walking Dead was the writing wasn't great. You got a lot of characters who would act out of character far too often to advance the storyline. That it broke the thing.
They had that, Harry, and then the other problem is they would get stuck, and when they got stuck, they'd be like, I know, we'll kill someone.
Mm-hmm.
And that's kind of like, that's what the Game of Thrones did that too, right? We'll just, like, the Game of Thrones did it because George R.R. Martin kind of wrote that. But The Walking Dead was very much, like you said, characters who were supposed to act a certain way and then didn't too much. And then, oh shit, we have no ideas. Quick, kill somebody and make the audience sad.
George R.R. Martin took Raymond Chandler literally.
Yeah.
And the problem is he couldn't write as well as Chandler.
No.
Because Raymond Chandler always said that if you get stuck, have two guys bust into a room with guns.
Yeah. Get your characters into trouble.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And so that was Chandler's kind of, it wasn't tongue in cheek. I mean, he was being serious because he published a novel where he left part of the story unfinished and people caught him on it. And he was like, oh, hell, I don't even know who did that. It's like, but you never solved the murder. I didn't. Shit. That kind of thing. Which is, that'll tell you something about how writers write too.
Yeah.
As opposed to George R.R. Martin, whom I will admit, have not read. Cree has made it through one or two of the books.
He's awful.
And said,
just
oh my God. He said, 50 pages later, you're still in the same field with him still describing blades of grass. And I mean.
But then you'll get a data dump of 20 pages where you better pay attention to every phrase. Because that's the only place you're going to find out how that shit works.
Yeah.
Yeah. Which is just horrible. I mean, it's like,
fucking data depot.
It's like somebody wrote him a program and he just plugs shit in.
Yeah.
And then says, oh, I know, I'll write some flowery prose and fit it in here.
He thinks he's fucking Tolkien when he's not.
No.
But even for a modern writer who does that gracefully, read The Witcher. Read the book. The Witcher book. The book series. I read the whole thing.
Actually.
And it's actually beautifully written. It is true to its origin. It started out as a group of short stories. And it reads that way a little bit, but you talk about the right way to develop a world and the right way to build back into, to tell the story of the world that you're in as you tell the adventure that the characters are on.
Yeah.
It's done almost perfectly.
If you ever want to read a very strange collection of short stories, read Naked Came the Manatee. That is a bizarre collection of short stories.
One. Yeah.
Have you read it, Skep?
I've read part of it. I don't think I read the whole thing.
Okay, Dave Barry. It was a team of South Florida writers, and it included Edna Buchanan, who covered Crime Beat for Miami, wrote nonfiction. Elmer Leonard.
Elmer Leonard's one of my favorite authors.
Fucker though in Naked Came the Manatee, he waltzes in and wipes out one of the characters. Typical, absolutely typical. One of the other big, God, I can't think of the guy's name. Oh shit, Carl, Eliason, something like that. Very weird. Their biggest mistake is they let Dave Barry kick it off. So he named the manatee Booger. and you're reading it, it's like, oh my God, a 14-year-old. Oh, wait, yeah, it is.
Big wet sleep.
Yeah. But it was just so bizarre because Elmer Leonard's writing style compared to some of these guys who are funnier in their writing, Leonard is entertaining in his writing. It's just gritty and a little bizarre.
Well, yeah, Elmer Leonard wrote the chapter called The Odyssey, where Coconut Grove police officer Joe Sereno observes two crime scene cleaners at work in a hotel room where two males were gruesomely killed. Looking out the window, Sereno sees a man that strongly resembles Castro, except without the trademark beard, lounging by the hotel's pool. That's all it says about it.
Real quick, guys.
That sounds very random.
I got
to head out,
go to bed. But I'm about 95% sure we're gonna do Wednesdays with Skep.
Yay!
So that'll be at 2 p.m. Eastern, 11 a.m. Central, on the Blind Press YouTube channel. And I will be, if Logan is back to school on Thursday, then I will be doing a Twitch stream in the afternoon. And on Saturday, we will be covering season 2, episode 6 of Picard on the Star Trek stream. And I will be in Discord Saturday night at around 10 o'clock. You guys are not going to want to miss being there because I'm going to be watching a movie that I found called See For Me.
Ooh.
In which it involves a blind woman house sitting for somebody, and the house is burglarized, and she uses an app called See For Me to get away from the bad people. So if you want to see me get really, really mad in person, come by Discord on Saturday night.
So it's like that Marley Matlin movie, but with sight instead of hearing.
To me, it's like a Don't Breathe ripoff, except this time the woman is like a really bitchy, because I watched the trailer and she's like a really bitchy independent blind woman, like. And the movie works very hard to show you this in the trailer because that there are 3 separate times where sighted people are trying to give her like cogent information about something like visual, and they're not being overbearing about it. They're just being normal people, and she cuts them off in a very snarky way. Yeah, I got it. Yeah, I'm fine. So, and her See For Me agent is also a woman. So it's the bad bitches trope.
Oh boy!
I
can't wait.
Oh, this is good. It's gonna be good. It's gonna be.
Wait,
it's gonna be awful. but
I'm
it'll be
confused.
fun.
It's like like the agent is like it's like a Cortana type deal, like from Halo,
No,
or is it like
actual person. So C for me is there are actual apps like this in reality. There's one called Be My Eyes, which is free, and it is volunteers on the other end of your smartphone camera telling you stuff. And then there's one called Ira, which you actually pay for. And you can either use your smartphone or like they have glasses as well that you can pay for. And again, you can they help you with visual stuff. So this movie is using this like actual idea like of an actual app that exists. They're just calling theirs See For Me, and the woman that is helping the blind woman through her fucking phone camera is as well. And they're these two bad bitches. They're gonna get away from these burglars, yo. Oh,
if
Sounds
the
like
agent
very,
doesn't-
very empowering. Very.
Yeah.
If-
Yeah.
If the agent doesn't taught her how to field strip an M16, then I'm going to be very disappointed.
Oh, there at the very end of the trailer, there's a snippet where the agent is telling her, telling her inhale, and when I tell you fire. So she's getting her to do the inhale, exhale crap, the exhale on the trigger pull bullshit. And
Yes, Queen Slay.
Yeah, so empowered, much wow.
yeah.
Yeah.
So
If the phone camera like through the scope, I'm gonna be like, oh my god.
if you guys want, because I will be screen sharing, you guys will be able to see this. I am going to have a watch party, so if you guys want to see this and my reaction, and
Yeah,
I have to work, so I'm gonna miss it.
able to
But,
hear-
oh my gosh, that sounds so funny.
Will we be able to hear your reaction?
oh yeah,
Okay, that's
oh yeah,
important.
no, it's because I've got
That's what's going to be fun.
I've got the virtual device hooked up and figured out, so you'll hear the movie, you'll hear me, you'll see the
That's
movie.
what they are. All right.
It's,
And what time is that?
it's going to be at 10, so that people who have minions that night will be able to also make minions.
Yay. All right, we'll be there or be square. Thanks for coming by tonight.
All right, I'll see you.
Wonderful having you. And good luck with those kids trying to
Have a good
gargle
night, everybody.
with some Listerine or something.
All
Keep the germ count down. Take
right.
care of yourself. We'll see you tomorrow.
Good night, guys.
Good night.
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 Oh, that movie sounds like an epic shit show.
Oh god.
With blind press reacting to it, that'll be awesome. She'll probably be hearing it through described video. So
Just please tell me that like Bobby Phillips is the person playing as the star of it, or somebody like that. Somebody who can't act very well.
Oh, you know they didn't hire somebody who actually knows what they're doing.
Because nobody who knew what they were doing would take the role.
Back when work was fun and I was sort of in startup mode, my business partner at the time and I used to have this huge whiteboard, and rather than use it for something useful, we came up with this theory that there's always one person that's the actor who's good enough to be barely good but not very good. Just sort of there was somebody who was right at the median, just good enough to be almost good. And so we started organizing actors and actresses relative to the lines that we would establish, trying to figure out who was the median. And we kept ending up with this actress called Bobby Phillips as being the one who was simultaneously neither good nor bad. She's actually pretty terrible. But it's surprising how much time two guys can spend arguing about, whether, just how good or bad Pamela Anderson is as an actress. Good times.
Bobby Phillips, I don't know that name. Like, what was she in?
She was in the Chameleon movies and a few other things. She was neither good nor bad. She was literally the medium. She was pretty terrible. I watched a lot of TV in the 90s. It's all very sad.
I was going to say.
Yeah, you know, what are you going to do with your time? When you're working like 16 hours a day kind of thing, you don't have a whole you don't need a whole lot to be entertained when you take a break.
This is true.
Because you're pretty punchy at that point.
That's probably fair. That's fair.
Yeah, it's a shame, but yeah, we just had this huge whiteboard, and there was nothing business related on it. It was just this list of actors and actresses. And what's that line mean? That's the good versus bad line. Let's just try to figure out where somebody ends up in this ordered list. Good times. So speaking of which, I used to really enjoy those Storm Chaser shows. I mean, this was really exciting stuff. You could turn on, was it on the National Geographic Channel? And they would follow around a couple different teams, like some small storm chasers, and then they would follow around, I can't remember the guy's name, the guy who did the Doppler on wheels thing, where they'd get a couple of these Doppler radars on the back of trucks and they'd chase around trying to find tornadoes.
Yeah.
And that was like huge, suspenseful, amazing TV. I mean, it's like real life stuff, but there's like built-in drama. There's built-in suspense. And if you could just get like kind of a glimpse of a tornado and get some data, that was pretty awesome. You know, fast forward to now, and there's like people on YouTube streaming stuff like this in 4K. Mm-hmm. And it's not nearly as exciting as it used to be, because this was like my favorite thing, years ago.
I used to love to watch those things.
I used to love to watch those things. It was absolutely fascinating,
awesome.
But the computer models have gotten so much better, and there's just so much stuff out there now that it's not really scarce anymore.
Yeah.
It's not rare in any way.
It's not special anymore.
Yeah, you've got pictures of tornadoes coming from people's Ring doorbells.
Yeah.
What were we going to say, Prospero?
Well, one of the guys who was like a legend of storm chasers was killed in that Moore, Oklahoma.
Yeah.
The second
the big F5, the second
big one. The second big one.
Those were good dudes too, and it was I think 4 of them who died.
Yeah, it was pretty awful, because that turned out to be the one they'd had just a couple years before then had been dreadful. And then that one came along and just added a whole patina of horror because of what happened to all those kids in that school.
Yeah, talking about those fatalities. The storm was a behemoth, 2.6 miles wide, the largest tornado ever measured on Earth. It was also violent, strong EF3 on a 0 to 5 scale for ranking twisters, packing winds as high as 296 miles an hour. But chasers swarmed around it anyway, and some even ventured inside the storm. 4 died. Those are the first known chasing fatalities.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of remarkable if you think about it.
Well, their shtick was they were working on scientific instruments.
Yes.
So they weren't, it wasn't like they were like, I want to make an IMAX movie. Not like that guy, I can't remember his name. Or Reed Timmer, that group. These guys were boffins. They were making instruments for measuring the weather phenomenon and gathering data. These were like hardcore researchers, and they would
called themselves the Twistex team.
Right. They would take their own time and go out in a big old Toyota Tundra truck and try to chase these things down and put instrument packs in the path. So unlike the people who go, tornadoes usually move in, such and such an orientation, so we're going to move in a way so as not to be in the path of the tornado.
These guys would bisect it. Yep.
Their whole goal was to be in the path of the tornado. What they were doing was much more dangerous. And with a beast like that coming at you, it's kind of hard to judge distance and speed when something that big is bearing down on you.
Yeah,
well, it's got to throw all your assumptions out the window at that point, because you've gotten used to it.
I think it did something atypical as well.
Well, it was this. If I recall, they were killed a little southwest of Moore, because they were on the lead up to that coming in. But the thing is because of the people that bring you the TORCon information that Weather Channel loves to tout so much. The guys out of Oklahoma City at the university. I mean, these guys were like sharing information with them. I mean, it was very, very valuable information for both meteorologists and the storm prediction center people, because of looking at prime atmospheric conditions to spin up horrible, horrible things like what happened in Oklahoma. That was just awful. And I mean, the devastation was extraordinary. And, you know, go to a basement. Well, it was the perfect solution at that elementary school because they were underground. It would be safe. But the problem is water.
Yeah.
Water goes to low.
That storm was just too big.
Yeah. Water goes to low ground. And I mean, it just, ugh.
Yeah, it was a bad scene.
The
picture that I put on the screen a few minutes ago, and I've been sharing, is people have been talking about how many people have moved to Austin and that part of Texas, the central part of Texas, south central part of Texas, from California. And Austin is getting more and more like California every day. The sign that they have erected just outside of town is indicative of that.
Yeah, like the Hollywood land sign. Yeah.
Yeah. And Austin is going to build out just the way LA did. It's got the rolling hills, a lot of desirable real estate, very, very picturesque place to live. It's a little bit cooler than the surrounding area. It's there are good reasons to go to Austin, and I predict that it's just going to become filled with California.
They need to move the state capital to Fort Worth immediately.
Yeah. Austin only won over Salado by, I think it was 1 or 2 votes.
Over where? Everybody
Salado, Texas, which is near Waco. And that's actually the home of the Stagecoach Inn, which was where my parents spent their honeymoon night after they were married in Waco.
Oh,
many, many years ago. True story. They drove down to Salado and stayed in the nice hotel there. Probably the first time my dad had ever stayed in a hotel in his life.
Might have been.
I'm sure it was.
My parents were married, and 3 days from now would be their, good God, how many? 73rd.
Mm-hmm.
They were married 73 years ago this weekend, and they went to New York.
Married in 1949.
72. Sorry.
Oh, so
72. They married in 50.
Same year my parents were married. Interesting.
Yep. And they went. Your parents went to Waco to get busy making a little Skep.
That's all right.
Isn't that a terrifying thought? No.
They had to drive
to
Biloxi, Mississippi. That's actually where Little Skep was made, and about halfway hatched. Then, with Mom 5 months pregnant, they moved to Albuquerque, which is why the shrine is there.
Yes, of course.
Tasteful and understated. But at any rate, I have just been watching the Biden follies on TV, and just generally the whole nonsense that our public discourse has turned into. I mean, it really is 2 armed camps right now. And I'm actually, I think I'm one of the voices on Twitter that says, hey, both the right and the left need to just take a step back and start talking to each other. I try and say that anyway. But boy, there is no engagement, none, from either side. Neither one is interested in leaving their battlements. It's like Monty Python castles.
It is a bit difficult to convince a group of people who have been called Nazis for 5 or more years to shake it off. I prefer it be done, but I'm not sure.
I think we have a right to expect that level of maturity from the people we send to Washington to govern us.
Yeah, I would hope so. There doesn't.
We have a right to expect more from
than
them
we're getting.
than we're getting from Lindsey Graham and AOC.
Well, yeah, and there's some other hotheads on both sides of the aisle who should take a step back. I don't mind people being tough. I know it's just impossible to mention Jim Jordan's name without people immediately hurling accusations. Oh, you mean Jim? GYM Jordan. But, prosecutorially tough. Taking that tenor when you're dealing with a witness, but getting into screaming matches, 2 intellectual giants like Hawley and Durbin screaming at each other. That was sarcasm, folks. It's just not our best foot forward, but here's the thing. You have a lot of insatiable people who were stirred up by our former president. And he continues to stir them. And they sound like rabbiting loons. Now, I'd like to be able to say differently, because I enjoyed Trump's presidency from the standpoint of him knowing how to wind up all the right people.
Yeah.
He was outstanding at it, and he knew what he was doing. And they took the bait constantly. And everybody who thinks, oh, he's so stupid. No. I mean, it's dumb like a fox.
He was running Jim Acosta like a puppet.
Oh, my God. He was running most of the press. And it was... It was pretty entertaining because they assumed he was an idiot. They assumed everybody that supported him.
He's not an idiot. He's a monomaniac. He's a crazy man egotist.
Oh yeah. I mean, he's got a very perverse personality. He's intensely fragile. He bears all the hallmarks of an adult child of an alcoholic.
Yeah.
In that regard.
Yeah.
A great bundle of insecurity wrapped in bloviation.
I wasn't thinking about Al-Anon behaviors, but now that you mention it, almost everything he ever asserts has some kind of passive aggressive counterpunch.
Yeah.
Just waiting behind it.
Mm-hmm.
I know. I think I see what you're saying.
Yeah, I mean, that's pop psychology on my part, but there are
we deal in that here.
Just decided hallmarks of.
Yeah.
I don't think he's your classic narcissist. I think you're right with a monomania, because now some people could say that narcissism is born out of insecurity. I don't know. But Trump is deeply insecure.
Yeah,
and it shows.
He's driven. I think his motivators are. I've got to be bigger than Dad was. That's essentially what chases his little soul.
Oh yeah, and he determined a long time ago to never fall into the trap,
right,
of his brother.
Right.
And go the way of the bottle. I mean, he is a teetotaler, always has been. He's very Puritan about certain things, and very libertine about others. He's just a mess, I mean, he's a blue collar guy in a white collar world in many ways, because he has the coarseness of the construction worker about him. He
also likes their adulation.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Well. He adores it. But I mean, everything about him screams nouveau riche.
Yeah, pretty much almost definitional.
Yeah. Trump Tower is just a nightmare. My mother and I've
been in the place. I know.
Mom and I walked in there in 1985. She was like, "We got to go by see Trump Tower." And walked in, and I was like, we were both like, "Oh, sweet Jesus!"
Shiny brass everywhere.
Yeah, it's just there's just a metric fuck ton of overcompensation in that building. And knowing those things about Trump helps you forgive some of the annoyances,
or at least you can understand it.
Well, yeah, I mean, I try, like Harry does, because of his liberal friends, to understand that some people can mean very, very well, and it just go all to hell in their presentation and in their thought processes. And I still think Trump was very right about certain things and pointing out deep, deep flaws in the nature of how governance.
But he can't have been right because he was a racist white male.
Yeah, he's not and he's not the racist. They say he is. He can never have gotten where he is if he were that rampant racist. Yeah, but what about the but what about everybody was there for the money when he was handing it out? Well, that's what a racist would do. Not most of them. Most racists don't fund Jesse Jackson's presidential campaign. He's an old school New York Democrat, which is why he could have given a shit about the deficit. And, I'm going to give him a C. A for effort in certain areas. F for managerial style within politics. So on balance, a C. But he's not Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
And this adulation that the Trump people have.
God's going to send him back to us.
Oh, sweet
Then
Christ.
Everything will be all right.
God sent Trump to us. Yeah. I mean, it's just, if they're not talking about these are the end times and there's another sign, they're talking about that. And it's like, stop it. Yeah. Stop it. But
well, the thing is, though, both sides are kind of trying to do their dueling end times prophecies at this point.
Yeah, yes, they are. They are, because climate change is going to kill us all.
That's exactly where I was going. Yep.
Yeah. The scientism crowd.
We're going to get harmed by Harmageddon.
Yeah, no kidding. But the problem, the thing that I fear is that you've got somebody like DeSantis who is competent and knows how to thumb his nose a bit like Trump did at the right people. He's got a lot of the press dancing to his tune in Florida. And
yeah, DeSantis' great art is knowing what he can thumb his nose at.
Yeah.
To
not going too far.
Yeah, exactly. He knows exactly how not to go too far.
He's got
DeSantis has pitch discipline. Like he knows when to swing and when not to. Trump swung at every goddamn pitch that ever was thrown at him.
Yeah, and but he also got people to do that too. It was very bizarre that badinage that went on. But the thing that concerns me going
bizarre is the right word too.
Going forward is the Trump people will destroy DeSantis and make the biggest mistake of their lives if they think he's in the way of their guy. And they will. They'll do worse to him than the left will do. Because he represents a threat to their second coming, because they treat Trump like they think he's Jesus. I mean, it's pretty
a requirement for working there.
Yeah, it's pretty spectacular.
Yeah.
And that really worries me. They are going to destroy the field and hand the 2024 election back to the Democrats. Because there's a scorched earth thing. And in that way, I would like to see supposedly our side tone it the hell down. You don't have to fight the fight on the local level like you're doing. Take back the school boards. Take back governor's mansions like Youngkin did. Let people hang themselves with their own words, which the Democrats are doing a brilliant job of. But the Republicans always stand poised to snatch defeat from the jaws of victory.
Right. Those evil, grasping jaws of victory.
Well, both parties do. This is what they do. As soon as they get a little bit of power, then they figure, well, now we have to pay off our constituencies.
Yes.
And so the Republicans go after the abortion constituency, aka the religious right. They try to give them a little red meat. And the Democrats try to give the Bernie bros a little bit of red meat. Or no, I guess the AOC gals, whatever they're called now.
Mm-hmm.
So as soon as they get in charge, they both try to do an own goal.
Yep.
And the Democrats in this case, if you look at the margins by which they're winning, they keep trying to make it sound like they have this huge mandate. Like, Joe Biden is the most popular president ever. Just look at the number of votes that were cast for him. But even if, leaving aside the question we're not allowed to talk about, he doesn't have a huge majority even going into office if you look at the polls.
No.
He has a very slim majority, but it's like, win by 1%, act like you won by 40%.
Mm-hmm.
And that's part of the problem. Nobody, and if you try to come in as a centrist, people say, oh, well, you're just a wet Republican.
Yeah.
You're just the soft middle.
Oh.
We don't have any time for people like you because, we're in a culture war. So unless you're my warrior on whichever side, I can't support you. And
right.
It's lonely in the middle with people like me.
Yes.
But I will tell you this, I will at least bring dessert occasionally. So if you want to have a meeting with me, there will be coffee cakes sometimes. And fresh bread. Yeah.
Well, they usually the triangling between different groups. Bill Clinton did that fairly effectively. I think George W. Bush did that very effectively.
Early days.
Obama not so much. No. And Trump didn't even bother to try.
Maybe for the first year of his administration.
Are we sure Trump didn't bother to try? Because he was pretty centrist. You look at job growth in Black Americans, women. You look at all the objective factors, and a lot of what he did benefited the big soft middle. He did not spend all of his time just going after things to make the right really happy. He'd show up at the odd prayer breakfast now and then, but for the most part, he really wasn't all that right wing.
No. And he knew better than to pander to the religious right with so much, because let's be real.
The press painted him as right wing, but I'm not so sure he actually was. He was a fake right-winger at most. He was a former Democrat who ran as a Republican.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and he was right-wing when it suited him. He could be religious when it suited him. Whatever suited his moment. That was his particular form of. It was kind of a form of dishonesty, but in a way, it was just that's what Trump really was what he needed to be at the moment.
That's
whatever
what
combination of characteristics.
That's kind of what he's been his whole career in business.
Sure.
When you're with the construction workers, you're the blue collar guy who says fuck. And,
tough as nails with the labor rep, and then ready to hobnob with the managerial class and the investor class.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. What are your metrics of success? That's the question. So whenever you say something is good or bad, you have to say, okay, so by what measure? So if you look at foreign policy, objectively, Trump did many things very, very well.
Yes,
starting with grabbing people from industry who actually knew something, who had international experience, and putting them in. The whole thing, you can like or dislike Trump's extended family, but the peace deals in the Middle East were huge.
Yes, they were.
And if you look at the economic performance, it was outstanding. And you can say what you want about his climate record, but carbon output from the U.S. actually went down under Trump even before the pandemic.
Yes.
Because what we did was we effectively replaced high carbon fuels with low carbon fuels. And all of the stuff that was happening locally in terms of solar just continued. He didn't objectively cause a lot of problems. I mean, I suppose if you were transgender and wanted to become a military officer, Trump was the worst president you could possibly have. But other than a fairly small group of people who were simultaneously trying to become military officers and transgender, I think he actually did a lot of good things for a lot of people. And don't get me wrong, I think as a human being, I wouldn't want him dating my sisters the way I usually describe it.
Yeah, that's the stuff about transgender military officers. Those ideas are designed by people who know nothing about how a real Navy or a real Army operates, what the day-to-day is really like in an operational unit. You cannot have an instant of hesitation. I mean, you make decisions that moment by moment that can be responsible for hundreds of lives, even thousands of lives, even more than that. That crap won't work if there is an undercurrent. If people feel like they can't trust other people in their unit, the military won't work. The military is designed to run on the principle that everybody trusts that everybody else is doing their job. I don't know.
Well, if you have health issues that require you several times a day to stop doing what you're doing and go and, dilate yourself, that makes it hard to perform your job. I'm trying to be objective here. I'm not trying to be a dick about this. I'm just saying,
I know.
If you have religious practices that require you to stop doing your job and 5 times a day go perform some ritual for 20 minutes,
right?
You have every right to believe in whatever you want and do whatever practices you want, but you're not able to do the same work as everybody else because of some choice that you've made. And that's fine. You just don't have to be in the military. You don't have to be in the military. And it's not about discriminating against people. It's simply that you've made a choice that puts your lifestyle in conflict with the demands of the job.
Yep.
Full stop.
Or, there's a reason that people with diabetes don't serve. Because the last thing you need is in an emergency, somebody realizing their blood sugar is crashing, and so are they.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
You just can't have that. It's not just that they are a danger to others. They're in grave danger themselves.
The epilepsy is the same thing. You can't have somebody who can instantly go non-compass menace in a potential
through no fault of their own.
Through no fault of anybody's.
This is just, these are
That's
the facts.
Not a job you can do.
These are the facts on the ground. There are plenty of other ways that you can help the cause.
Yeah.
Lots of ways. There's lots of ways just about anybody can do it. There's things you can do as a civilian contractor. There's not frontline things you can do.
Right.
But they want to be the brave trans officer because somehow that's meaningful.
To be fair, I didn't support that move for the reason that I don't think it's right to judge groups of people based on their membership in groups. You probably should take the cases individually. and look at the circumstances of each particular one, because I don't care if somebody's trans or not trans. I'm not going to use their language. I'm sorry. I don't care if somebody has some kind of mental problem that makes them prone to suicidal ideation or anything like that. Anything that where them hurting themselves could damage both themselves and unit cohesion. I don't want that person in.
You work so hard. You work for so many hours at the edge of exhaustion, at literal physical exhaustion. You people don't realize the strain that you're under, every moment. You really cannot have people with, from what I can tell, with a lot of these issues. They could just go down at a critical time.
And look at how damaging it is to people with strong psyches. So.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, PTSD is a thing. And I mean, sometimes I think it's being used by, like, with
it is
long COVID.
But it's still legitimate on some.
Oh, yeah.
Some people. They
it's
see things
shell shock.
they just can't get away from. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and I mean, it's a thing. I mean, my dad would have screaming nightmares. I'm pretty sure I knew what they were about. Didn't ask. He didn't, volunteer, because that's how that generation dealt with it. They just kept moving on with their lives, and things fade over time, mercifully.
That transition, though, when you arrive on American soil and suddenly everything's back to the way it was before, must be just really, really hard.
Oh yeah, and hypervigilance after you have had to be vigilant for years that's not going to leave you immediately. I mean, I've shared it on the show before, but the next door neighbor of one of my college roommates was a Japanese lady. She was the grandmother, and she'd come to live with a family in the States. But thunderstorms would send her diving under a table. It was just reflex with her.
Probably not a good person to be a storm chaser, I think.
No. And also not somebody that you could have in a live fire area. If people have high startle response to certain things, I mean, there are all kinds of reasons that people will not be deemed combat ready or efficient.
Yeah, I just don't want to see them go after people based on their membership in a group. I mean, maybe they get an additional review, but just on general principle, you should take people as individuals. That's all I'm saying.
Absolutely. And if you want to work in the Pentagon and help the effort, there are just metric shit tons of civilian employees connected to the armed forces of the United States. So there you go. But most of this is politics, visibility, signaling, that kind of thing. And it makes a mockery of the struggle that people with gender dysphoria have. And it's deeply offensive on that part.
Yeah. Well, I think that trans is probably a pretty big tent. There's a lot of people that fall into that. And I'm just trying to imagine people who had certain types of corrective procedures done, based on secondary sex characteristics and DNA. There are cases where these things are medically kind of necessary early on. It might be a very different thing from somebody who's grossly unhappy pursuing this as an adult, with a rapid onset type of thing. I don't think that all people who are dealing with these issues deal with them in the same way. And there may be people there who are capable of being military officers, but maybe not on the front lines. So I'm just saying, take each case individually, rather than just saying, if you belong to this group, you cannot serve.
As much as that can be, but Harry, everybody is supposed to be able to be deployed.
I know. That's the point. They have to be.
Out of my mouth.
But if that individual meets the criteria in terms of mental stability, et cetera, then fine. There may be people that technically fall under this umbrella who are quite capable of serving.
Yeah. Ditto diabetics, but you still can't run the risk.
You can't put them in an operational unit on the pointy end of the spear for
Right.
the exact reason that Prospero is talking about. Anybody who is a commissioned officer in the Navy theoretically can act as, can act competently in any situation that requires a naval officer of his grade. It guarantees a certain skill set, guarantees a certain capability of acting in, situations in which you find yourself, sometimes very difficult under a lot of duress, of physical and mental duress, of either combat or the training that they do is just merciless. It's just, if you're a masochist, it's a dream. And it just again and again and again, drilling that stuff into your down to your socks. And when you've gone back to requal on damage control school for the 4th time, sitting in, oily water up to your hips, fighting a fire, a very real fire that can really burn you, that they use at the school, you realize that, no, this is not a job for everyone.
Sailors are great firefighters.
Oh my God. Motivated. Oh my gosh.
And a lot of them end up in firefighting service because of that, because they leave the Navy and they have
a lot of skills.
They already have a skill set, so
my grandfather was going to go to work for Red Adair, but they called him back, so he had to stay in the service longer.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Wow.
Man, Red Adair's operation is legendary down here.
Yeah. For people who don't know who Red Adair was, he was like this maverick oil well firefighter guy.
Beaumont, Texas.
Yeah. He's one of those people that probably isn't very prominent, isn't very well known anymore. But when it comes to just sheer testicular fortitude, guys like Red Adair and his crew were right up there.
He would take on well fires that nobody else would go near. No other company would even bid.
His team was one of the first groups to go into Kuwait after.
Yes, that's who they called.
I mean, they were just like, go get them. Things are a mess over here.
Yeah.
It was like, hey, it looks like
it was actually such a big problem. They needed Adair's group to coordinate the efforts of a lot of other people.
Yep.
Who did a lot of that work, but Adair and that lot, they did all the tough ones.
Well, they were
just wait for the fire to go out.
Well, they were used to the They were used to the logistics.
How much time you got?
Well,
got a few million years.
When you have to manage the kind of logistics that go into dealing with all those well fires that the Iraqis set, for that alone, we should have gone into Baghdad and hung the fucker.
Well, you're not wrong. But there you go. Now there are
it's not whoops, sorry.
Well, I just keep going back to the thing that you can't have a class of officer in the military who is not capable of doing things that are required of other officers of that class and say, well, that work is too hard for you. That work's not suitable for you. That's wrong to let them wear that uniform. It's wrong to the people who do have to do that hard work.
The one thing,
go ahead.
What one size fits all, in that sense, builds esprit de corps. That's the problem with tailoring things to the individual, like you can in the civilian world, because how much do individuals matter in the military, Skep?
Oh, well, individuals acting together in concert according to a plan is the strength of the military.
Right. But you know what I mean? When there is a unit getting ready to deploy,
there's no individuals.
There are no individuals. There is a unit.
You're a machine.
Yeah, being deployed.
Well, we don't need performance reviews then, do we?
Well, of course you do, but I think you're taking...
You have to evaluate the components of the machine.
Well, of course, you're always evaluating the components of the machine. You're evaluating the components going in, and you're evaluating them on an ongoing basis.
But
all I was suggesting was that you just have to do the review like you would with anybody else who wanted to be an officer with some kind of responsibility. I mean, you either believe in the principle that people are individuals and you treat them as individuals, or you don't. And I don't really allow a lot of exceptions for that. If you have a narrowly defined group and you're saying you're not a group, you're a characteristic, I can see where that would be the argument. But I think that, like I said, this particular classification is too broad to be fit for purpose for this.
Yeah, maybe. I don't know.
As opposed to type 1 diabetic. That I understand, right? You have to get an injection. If we can't keep refrigeration, you're going to die. You're going to become a liability to everybody else. I understand that.
Yeah. Well, I'm not saying don't evaluate them. I think these officers, good officers are, they're not that easy to find, believe it or not. They're a scarce resource. And if somebody can be a competent officer, somebody can do the work, have at it, but if they can't, if they come in, they're all, don't do this. You could trigger me, but if you use my pronouns wrong, I could have a PTSD episode and I'll need my service dog. That person cannot do the job that I did.
No soy boys either. And it's possible that nobody in that classification who applies might actually pass muster. And that it's just a huge waste of time to undergo the process. But
but it's worth doing it.
But it's just important to not fall into the trap of thinking of people as
stereotyping,
thinking of people as members of groups who have specific rights because of their membership in groups.
Oh, I see.
Or lack specific rights.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
If you believe in Enlightenment values,
positively,
you have to take people as individuals at all times.
Assassin of the Grey pointed out that the USS Forrestal is why every sailor is a firefighter. Actually, what happened on the Forrestal was one of the great moments of courage of U.S. Navy firefighters. They went up against a fire that was just devastating, and many of them lost their lives saving that ship in 1967, I think it was. And the Forrestal, when it came in from its last deployment, it tied up there at Alameda. I used to get to look out. I could see the Enterprise, the Coral Sea, and the Forrestal all populating the carrier decks, the carrier dock, which was just adjacent to where we tied up. It was, but anyway, they had a terrible fire on board caused by the accidental shooting of a Zuni rocket off of one of their, I think it was one of their A4s. And it started a fire on deck that spread below decks. They eventually got it under control, but it was a lot of guys got killed in that evolution. It was everything they could do to save their ship. It was a brilliant job that they did. Amazing training to react and do what they did. But Coral Sea had a couple of fires that I can remember. There was another. Was it Oriskany? I think it was the Oriskany had a bad fire also. Another carrier, that was another third fleet ship, by the way. Used to tie up at Alameda. You used to see it once in a while. It was pretty active there at just the tail end of Vietnam. I'm trying to think. Anyway, the decisions that those guys made specifically in the first probably 30 minutes of fighting the Forestall fire, particularly in the last third of that period of time, saved that ship. That absolutely made decisions that kept that ship afloat. She was really in danger of weakening by the midsection, and boy, when your ship breaks into two pieces, two big pieces, it's not a good thing.
No.
Not
Yeah.
in the middle of fucking Pacific Ocean, and they were way out there.
Yeah, the Oriskany Fire was in 66. It was a magnesium parachute flare.
Yeah, that was the flare. I remember that. Yeah, we studied the fires on the Oriskany, and we saw the deck cam footage from Forestall.
It was an amazingly weird thing. It was the flare was accidentally ignited, and the seaman panicked, and he threw the flare in the weapons locker where the flares were kept for storage instead of throwing it over the side, and it just set off all the flares and ended up killing 44. A bunch of them were veteran combat pilots.
Mm.
Yep, they just survived a mission over Vietnam a few hours earlier. Got back.
That was in a CAG turnover. I remember that.
Yeah.
I remember that. Yeah, it was the air group turnover, and that's why there were all the pilots on board.
Mm-hmm.
Ah, that's right. I forgot all about that. Huh. Yeah, the Big O, they used to call her.
Mm-hmm. Named for a Revolutionary War battle.
Oh, man. Those were the days. Men were men. Carriers were carriers.
On this picture, I almost feel like I can put a date on it based on how little traffic there is on the Golden Gate Bridge.
That's so amazing because I'm sitting here thinking, look at the traffic on the Golden Gate Bridge.
How little there is.
Yeah, it's after it was one way. Let's see. Okay, this is going to be, and if I look down there, I see, is that, let me do something quickly. Yeah.
I think that's the Enterprise.
No, it's not. That is not the, wait, is that say 65 or 55?
USS Enterprise CVN 65 retired, passing under the Golden Gate Bridge.
If that's a 65, it is definitely the Enterprise. And
but I don't have a date on it.
Yeah, she's already flown off her air group. They're all gone. And
well, this is retired, so this is probably a PR thing, maybe.
Yeah. We really don't know when that was.
Well, there is this group of old retired sailors that maintain and do various things with these ships here in California.
They keep the Hornet up. I've talked with those guys.
Good bunch of guys from what I've seen.
If I lived out there, I would be one of those guys. I would give them my time.
Yeah, they retired. God, when the San Francisco retirement of 61, 58 is when the Enterprise retired.
Well, that's old Enterprise.
Yeah.
Yeah, then the Enterprise that you're looking at here, that was retired in probably 1990 or so.
Okay, hang on.
No, that one just recently retired. I remember they kept it going for a long, long time.
Yeah, she was still active.
2012.
She was still active in 2001.
65. I'll tell you for sure. Blockchains.
Now, Alameda rings a bell because I'm pretty sure, I'm going from memory, that's when my parents were stationed right after they got married. First, they also got married after knowing each other for 60 days, which was
2012. She was inactivated on 2012. In 2012.
Yeah, she was. That's a long time. I wonder why they kept her going for so long.
Still worked 51 years.
She had like 8 reactors on board. I mean, that thing was a mess keeping the thing up.
I just swap them out. They're modular, but it does require being in a shipyard for like a year and a half. Because usually when they swap out the reactors, they do a whole bunch of other stuff at the same time.
Yeah, they do. They
That is
generally swap out the engines and other things.
Yeah,
that's a cool picture.
Yeah,
and
I was thinking
just to give you something to. That's the Enterprise on fire at sea.
Jesus.
In 1969. That was when they had their fire.
Fuel.
That's what a fire. That's what. Yeah, goddamn right it is.
Oof.
That's what it looks like when your aviation gasoline fuel tanks go
boom
up. And they went up. That's all on deck. All that stuff that you're seeing there is on deck, and what's happening is it's collapsed down into the second deck, the first deck below the flight deck. They also call it the hangar deck or the cargo deck. And now that's on fire, and some of the things in there are burning. Plus, it's caught the tank on fire. The forward port aviation gas storage facility is involved. Man, why they didn't sink, I will never know.
Well, Skep, the union that just won that vote with Amazon in New York.
Yes,
they're claiming that it's an unsafe working condition. They have unsafe working conditions at Amazon.
Yeah,
and the union's going to fix that. I got into a little bit of a spat on social media, and I just said, whenever I hear somebody go straight to the "I don't feel safe" sort of thing, I can't help but be a little bit skeptical, because they always go to that, and I'm like, So I did some research, and it's a little bit higher in terms of injury rates than some other similar types of things, but it's actually lower for the drivers. There's nothing in there that screams, I'm a lobster fisherman, or
I'm a coal miner.
Or I'm working on an oil well, or even jobs that I've done where instant death was not beyond the realm of possibility. You don't. There are a lot of jobs. It's like if you want to argue that it's shitty work and that there's not a lot of room for advancement, you don't get paid enough, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, by all means, but you don't have to gild the lily by throwing in unsafe working conditions.
Unsafe working conditions. Get out of town.
Yeah, I mean, a few people died of COVID, but compared to the number that died in food processing plants, and in agriculture, there are a lot of. I mean, I could see maybe giving those people hazard pay during COVID before the vaccines were available. I mean, that would be totally reasonable. But
like grocery stores were doing.
It may be a shitty job, but I'm not sure that Amazon fulfillment person working at an Amazon warehouse is anywhere near the top 20 most dangerous jobs you could possibly do.
I'm pretty sure it's not.
I'm pretty sure it's not too. But the unions always have to pile on, because the unions are going to come in and make sure that you're safe.
Hyperbole is their middle name.
It's not like the employer wants people to have injuries, because it makes them look bad and it costs them money, because they have to pay for the insurance that they maintain on people.
Yeah, workers.
And it costs them a lot of money. They don't want people to get injured either.
That reminds me, I'm going to contract here at Albertsons. That's going to be not fun.
Yeah. Unions are usually pretty terrible.
Yeah.
Yep.
You're not going to get an argument from me.
They're a last resort, and once you have them, you can never get rid of them.
How long do you think that Amazon processing facility is going to stay open? That's my bet, because
it'll go straight to court.
I won't. Yeah, and I mean, and eventually they'll say, we're going to move to outside of Philly. or we'll move to out Worcester, Mass.
Yeah.
Or someplace where they can move the
Find
stuff
someplace friendly.
just as quickly in the Northeast, where you don't have that. Hell, they might go to Montpelier for all you know.
No, we're just going
Plenty
to
of
double your
communities.
labor cost. That's all.
Yeah, that's okay. This is a great victory for employment in New York. It's just another reason that companies are going to look at New York and go, nah. We can do it in Pennsylvania, Jersey, Connecticut, in a friendly town.
Yeah. Well, if it's that bad, why haven't you left already? And then the thing is, well, there aren't any other job. Well, why do you think that is?
Yeah. I wonder.
If you want to open start this conversation, I'm more than ready to do that. Why is it that you think you don't have better job options? And why do you think it's the government that's going to solve this, or a union?
That's
Unions
a fair
don't.
question, Harry.
They don't create jobs. Unions don't create jobs.
Right.
Except they do preserve jobs for incompetent people sometimes.
Mm-hmm. And they make a fortune for leadership. But beyond that, no. Because, I mean, look at Boeing. Look at the whole Washington State shit show. And they were like, South Carolina seems to like us. Bye. And Washington State's like, we're going to sue to make you stay. I'm sorry, what?
Yeah, how?
How are you going to do this? That interstate commerce clause that gets applied.
Well, you see, we gave you special favors. We gave you a handy, so you owe us now.
All right, I left $20 on the damn dresser.
Tell it to the Raiders.
Yeah, unfortunately, you have judges and courts who have enough power to make things very expensive for Boeing leaving. And that's what this is, them getting their pound of flesh.
Yeah, and and Boeing knew that was going to happen, and Boeing still moved to South Carolina because they will recover that money by being in South Carolina.
Well, there's still plenty of things that Boeing's is plenty deep in Everett. It's just
they're still there. I mean, it's just was. But as far as your hourly worker people, if you're going to do that kind of thing, I mean, BMW went to South Carolina. The South is peppered with right to work states.
Yeah, Toyota.
Well, the 787 production went down to South Carolina completely. Yes. And so I'm thinking
that's a lot of people.
Right, a lot of people, and I'm thinking Boeing may just send all new airplane production down there.
Yeah, they just might.
As planes retire, then they'll just close up shop here.
That's a different production process. So if you're going to create a different production process anyway, that's a perfectly good time to just relocate that part of it.
Yeah,
got to build a new plant.
Not a new plant, but effectively a new building full of new stuff.
Well,
Might as well just make it be in South Carolina.
If you're retooling, you could retool there just as well as you can.
Since you can still own property in South Carolina, I'm not sure you can own property in Washington State or California anymore because of the tax situation. You only, even if you own something outright, you just sort of pay rent on it to the state. Isn't that right, Harry?
Well, there's a shitty place. I mean, genuinely a shitty place. That I was talking to some friends the other day. This place in Sunnyvale in a bad neighborhood ended up going for over like $780,000 over asking price.
God.
And this is like a bad neighborhood. So
Sunnyvale.
Sunnyvale.
Which is not.
We're not even talking about like the good part of Silicon Valley.
Yeah, exactly. It's the scum of Silicon Valley are all in Sunnyvale.
Yeah.
Oh, it's funny.
Yeah, well, I mean, let's not sell East Palo Alto and San Jose short, but yeah, I mean, there are parts of Silicon Valley that are much more Tony than others.
There are parts of San Jose that are very nice. In fairness to San Jose, but it's
there are
sprawl now. It's just all urban sprawl.
I really kind of wish I'd bought a house in Hanchett Park. Gorgeous neighborhood, a lot of old Victorians and stuff.
Yeah. Or one of those old redwood neighborhoods just on the eastern, on the western border of San Jose city limits.
Well, my big my big regret was around the year 2000 not buying this townhouse for $175,000 in Monte Vista, which is part of Cupertino, fairly close to Apple. And I didn't buy this thing because was in business startup mode, and I was thinking, ha ha ha, soon I'll take over the world and I can buy all the houses I want. It's like, you idiot. The mortgage payment is the same as your rent right now. Just buy it, moron.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It would have been perfect.
Yeah. There's like 5 things I've done in my life that are incredibly stupid, any of one of which I could undo with a time machine, and that's right up there on that list.
Well, it's things pass us by. I remember this guy coming in telling me, "Oh, this Yahoo, you should buy into it." I was thinking about taking a flyer, and almost did, but I did it with my children's. I took the flyer, but I didn't put any of my money in it. But I had 2 uniform gift to minor acts with a substantial amount of money, like enough for a house for each kid. And I invested them almost completely in Yahoo.
Too bad you didn't invest in iOmega.
It went to the moon. They had a lot of money when it came time for them to graduate from high school. They had a tremendous amount of money in savings.
Yeah. iOmega started like around $1 a share. It was practically a penny stock. And iOmega, in the early days of the internet, everybody talks about the later internet booms.
Bernoulli drives, baby.
But yeah, iOmega, when they first started just coming out with like mice.
Yeah.
Long before Logitech and all these companies. There's always an opportunity to make money if you just... but you have to actually decide to brown bag it, save a little bit of your lunch money, and do something with it. Just take a flyer on something. Because the real risk is in not ever trying anything. Being too cautious will cost you... Being too cautious will cost you in the long run when you're around here.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, it's like a lot of things involving money. You want to have just the right amount of aggression. If you're playing Texas Hold'em, a little pre-flop aggression every now and then never hurt anybody.
That's true.
Keep them guessing.
Yeah.
And guess what? You don't actually have to show your cards.
Yeah.
If they fold, what'd you have?
I
don't know. Nude pictures of your mom. That's what
money.
I have.
That costs money for that. Play another hand.
Yeah. Yeah, if you want to see what they are, you got to pay. Nobody gets to see my cards for free.
That's right. Nobody.
Because you can suck it, just like your mom.
Harry's one of those abusive poker players.
I'm not saying your mom's a whore. I'm just saying she has sex for money.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
I just love those shit talking people while playing poker.
This is the high class stream.
Shit talking is just one of the best things. It's like it's all part of the toxic masculinity, right?
Oh,
all these things that are supposed to be wrong with us.
It's one of the more splendid things you guys do, and it's something women just pretty much suck at. Like your mom. See what I mean?
Exactly.
But it's
funny.
Yeah, there are a lot of little testosterone rituals that men indulge in. Walked into more than one bar, typically a predominantly Marine bar, and you walk in wearing a Navy uniform. Hi, Lieutenant.
Yeah,
nice to see you.
They start whistling at you. Aren't you looking sharp, pretty boy?
Oh, they can say a lot with.
And Skep asked him to carry his bags.
Yeah, no kidding. I'm sorry, I mistook you for a sky cap.
God. No.
I believe the word you're looking for is bellhop, but yes.
Well, they all said the sky caps used to have those things too, and the train porters.
Yep.
I'm old. I remember when there were
train porters,
sky caps.
Man, I love that. I used to love traveling on trains when I was a kid.
Amazing way to travel.
Traveling on trains. I remember my dad and I took a trip down to see my grandfather and cousins. We went from Dayton, Ohio, by train to Montgomery, Alabama. And that was where our cousins picked us up and drove us down to Bay Minette. And that was just one. It was awesome. It was 1950s train in America with a sleeping compartment.
A Pullman.
Oh yeah. Oh my God. It was just absolutely awesome. And
That's how Mom and I went to Massachusetts.
Eating the meals
in the dining
white,
car. Yeah.
Yeah, with the white linen tablecloths
and the bespoke china for the rail line
napkins. Yeah, exactly.
Oh yeah, and going between cars when they hadn't neatened all that up, so there was all that happy clacky clack and smell.
Yeah, yes, and grease.
Oh yeah.
Here's the sanitized view of trains from that time.
Oh yeah.
Well,
that's good stuff.
Those lounge cars were really nice.
Look at these well-behaved children.
Yeah, it is.
Posing for that picture.
Yeah.
This is the idealized view of it.
I would have had a ball or a dart or something trying to see if I could throw it the length of the car.
There's little Skep there just reading with his mom.
Yeah, not me.
Hardly.
Yeah.
Doesn't look very diverse though.
He was running between cars. I'm sure there's a guy in a white jacket who is a black person in there somewhere on that train.
It does not look very diverse at all.
It wasn't.
And we're supposed to hate ourselves for that reason.
Yeah.
No,
not going to happen.
Why should we hate ourselves? I mean, for something that perhaps our grandparents' generation endorsed. We didn't endorse it.
Plenty of hate.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Group guilt is similar to my other statements. I don't believe in group guilt either.
No.
Yeah, so that darn disbelief thing comes into play again. But it is at this point in the evening where I have to point out that you've spent 2 hours of your life listening to us go on and on. This is the most fun that I have during the week is hanging out with you guys. Love to see chat when they show up. It's so wonderful to have you with us, and we do this for you. But we do it for ourselves too because we just have a good time. I do want to thank Blind Press, David, and my running buddies Prospero and Harry for being with us this evening. We're gonna call it an evening though, and thanks for joining us for the conversation. We'll do it again next week, but for now, Zoo is closed. Good night, everybody.
Good night.
Good night.